Hello, everyone. I'm Spencer. And in this presentation, I will be discussing my research on the Unitary Executive Theory, or UET. This is more than just a legal concept. It is a powerful doctrine that affects the structure of our government, the boundaries of presidential power, and the balance between liberty and control. The title of my project is Challenging the Unitary Executive Theory, Constitutional Crisis, or Necessary Reform. This reflects the key question. Is UET a faithful reading of the Constitution or a dangerous reinterpretation that undermines our democracy? The unitary executive theory holds that all executive power must reside with the president alone. According to this view, the president has the constitutional authority to control and remove all executive officers, regardless of statutory statutory protections and congregational design. While this theory may sound like a clean hierarchical structure, this problem is that it strips away vital checks and balances. UET concentrates power in a single office and undermines agency independence. Agencies like EPA, FTC, or Federal Reserve that were designed to be insulated from politics for a reason. The bigger issue is that UET invites the erosion of constitutional oversight by Congress and the judiciary. I choose this topic because I've long been interested in law and political accountability. The unitary executive theory kept coming up in legal news, court rulings, and public controversies, especially under the current Trump administration. His repeated use of this theory to remove officials, bypass congregational oversight, and claim exclusive control over policies implementation raised important constitutional questions. Rather than rely on media narratives, I wanted to study the legal doctrine directly by reading what the constitutional scholars, law professors, and courts actually say about UET. I began with a skeptical attitude, but I remained open to hear both sides through scholarly debate. After completing my research, I came to this conclusion. The unitary executive theory is not grounded in the original meaning of the Constitution and should not be treated as settled doctrine. It is a modern reinterpretation that places excessive power in the hands of the president, while proponents argue that UET improves executive accountability and decisiveness. The real world consequences show a pattern of overreach, weakened agency independence, and reduced transparency. In short, I argue that the rise UET reflects not constitutional fidelity, but political strategy. To test my thesis, I examined peer-reviewed legal scholarship from top journals. Alan Schoenberg, writing in Albany Law Review, argues that that UET is not only legally incorrect, but anti-democratic. He shows that the framers of the Constitution clearly rejected the idea of a monarchy, a monarchy-like executive, and instead embraced a system of accountability through checks and balances. Daniel Berg, in the Stanford Law Review, exposes the historical inaccuracies behind UET, particularly the claim that early presidents had unchecked removal power. Kais and Rosenblum, written in Columbia Law Review, take aim at Meyer v. United States, a case frequently cited by UET defenders. They reveal they reveal that Myers was not based on originalist principles, but instead on progressive era politics aimed at strengthening the presidency together. Together, these scholars present a strong historical and a legal case against UET. A striking example of UET in action can be seen in the ongoing case of JGG v. Trump. In this case, the Trump administration allegedly defied a federal court order by claiming that the executive branch could not be constrained by judicial rulings. This use of UET to justify ignoring a court's authority shows the series real world danger. It's not just about a theory anymore. UET is being used to undermine the rule of law, marginalize judges, and silence independent oversight. If this trend continues, we risk transforming the executive branch into an unaccountable institution with virtually no internal limits. The three guiding questions in my research were: how does the unitary executive theory threaten the democratic principles and institutional balance? Second, what are the legal and practical efforts of UET on independent agencies and federal courts? Third, is UET truly grounded in the original meaning of the Constitution, or is it a modern invention backed by ideology, not law? To answer these, I explored both historical evidence and recent applications of UET, especially under the current administration. One thing that surprised me the most is what was how normalized UET has become in elite legal circles. Groups like Federalist Society have promoted the theory for decades, and many federal judges, including some on the Supreme Court, have begun to cite it uncritically. I was also surprised by the extent of to which the theory has expanded beyond domestic domestic appointment to areas like foreign affairs, immigration enforcement, and emergency powers. In effect, UET is no longer just about how president fire cabinet members. It has become a legal weapon that can reshape the very architecture of our government. Of course, not every scholar opposes UET outright. Richard Murphy, writing in Arizona Law Review, argues that Article 2 does grant the president meaningful control over executive agencies, but that this control is limited by institutional constraints, such as bureaucracy and statutory procedure. Richard Pierce in University of Pennsylvania Journal of Congregational Law supports a more restrained version of UET that relies on the president's removal power, but not absolute control. While I appreciate these balanced perspectives, I argue that even moderate forms of UET risks being dangerous over time, especially if interpreted aggressively by courts or exploited by presidents with authoritarian tendencies. In conclusion, my research shows that the unitary executive theory is not a constitutional necessity. It is a political strategy disguised as originalism. And a growing use under the Trump administration has pushed the boundaries of executive authority to new and alarming extremes. Legal scholars, courts, and the public must take this seriously. not just as a debate between ideologies, but as a challenge to our system of government. I relied exclusively on legal journals such as the Stanford Law Review, Columbia Law Review, Albany Law Review, Arizona Law Review, and the University of Venezuela Journal of Constitutional Law to ensure academic integrity. Thank you for watching my presentation. I hope it has helped illuminate the importance of constitutional interpretation in defending democratic norms.